Welcome back, CSE 230, W1, to our final exercise. This is part 2 of our 18B form exercise that we're working on, just to add on to our hero page assignment that we did in our previous unit. So what we're going to do here is go back to our hero page that we worked on, and I have my little preview here, and I'm going to open up in a new window, and I'll refresh it. And just to refresh myself of what's here, hero page, and we have this section where it has paragraphs and we have navigation. Now we're going to keep the navigation and we're going to really get rid of everything else, except we're just going to have landscape design up in a little area up top. And then we're going to have a form, and the form will look like, I'm going to go to W3 Schools and I'm going to go to How To, and they have an area down at the bottom for forms, and they just have a quick little contact form. And we're just going to use this, real basic. We won't use country, we'll use state. And you can go and try it yourself and see the code. And again, they do all the CSS right on these elements. They don't use a table. We're going to use a table too. So we could go here, and if you want to open table in a new, I'll open this in a new tab, HTML, and I'll just go to tables. We haven't talked much about tables. Again, tables are fairly easy. They basically are just rows and columns. And sometimes you can have a header row. This is a header row. These are rows going across. So the gray and the white are rows going across, and these are the columns. This is company column here, contact column, country column. I'm just calling them columns. They're not named that way. But it's basically a table that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows, and it has 3 columns. Now we're going to make a table that has 1 column, and it'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With the button will be 9 rows. 9 rows, 1 column. So that should be easy. And just to see how this works, they're set up with a main table element, just like you would in Word. And then each row is indicated by a TR. And then this has TH. We're not going to use TH, so you can kind of skip that. But that's this part here. That's the header, if you have a special heading on it. We won't have a heading in our form. But then TDs are really the cells, so tabular data. So that's really, or table data is really what's in here. So these are the cells. So there's 3 cells in each row. So here's a row, which is 3 cells. So the TR really just indicates it's a row, and then the TDs are where really the content is. So that's what we're going to do. So it's not that hard to do, and we could kind of write this code all together first, and then we'll just kind of fill in what we need, and we could fill in some of the stuff right from here. And I'll explain what some of the stuff is as we do it too. So we're not just copying and pasting. Now they use something called placeholder text. You don't have to do that. That's this stuff here. You don't necessarily have to do that, but we could leave it in there since it's here. We don't have to delete it. And again, we'll change the names of some of this. We won't use state and country, but keep in mind that this is a label element, and it's called label 4, and it's using the name of the ID name of whatever it's called down here. So we are going to use ID so they are identified, and also for JavaScript, for processing forms, IDs would be helpful, so we are going to use IDs for that and try to follow the naming scheme that's here. So tables, we shouldn't have to do much with this. So I'm going to close this up. I'll just keep this open here with our code, and I guess I'll keep tables open for now just to get an idea. But to get started, I'm going to make a new file. And I'll just go here, and I'll just call it contact.html. And there'll be nothing in it, and there shouldn't be anything in it. And it's putting the stuff I did already in here. I don't know why. I don't know how it remembers. I think it's going from history, but I'm just going to delete it all because you won't have anything in there. So when you see me doing that, it won't just fill it up for you and finish it. So it'll be empty here. So contact HTML will be empty. So you're going to go to index, and you're going to copy everything. Command A or Control A, and then Command C or Control C, and then go here and paste everything. So it'll be exactly like the hero page. And let me move this over. And I'll move this over a little bit. Actually, I don't need any room here. And let me open this up even more so we have more room with all our code here. And we won't need hero image, hero text. So I'm going to get rid of that. And what I am going to put here is just a header. I'm going to type header and hit tab. And then hit enter, so we can kind of be on a separate line here. And I'm going to put an H1 and hit tab. And then I'm just going to put landscape design. just like we had on our hero page. So I'm just going to put that in there. So that's our header, and that's that little green part that'll be along the top. And area below, I guess we don't need any of this. So I'm going to actually get rid of everything above nav. So everything above nav I'm going to get rid of, except for the one I just put in there. Actually, I might leave that section here, and I'll put, form area here. And then actually after here, tab this over, and I'll put another comment, and I'll just put nav area, bottom. And I'll highlight it, and I'll do command /. Now remember, HTML comments use the less than sign, exclamation point, 2 dashes, and then they put their information, and it finishes off with 2 dashes, greater than sign, like that. Now I just use the shortcut for that. And you could put more dashes in here because sometimes that helps as a visual divider, so you see it a little bit better. But anyway, inside here is where our table and our form is going to go in here. So what we'll do first is make it one big section. So we're just going to call it section. Now we had section, well actually let's see what they do here. Let's see what they're doing. They're calling it a div class container. And then they're naming their form. I didn't do that the first time, so I got to make sure I put my form and then put a closing form. I didn't do that when I first did it. But anyway, div class equals container. We'll just call it section because we used section last time. So we'll go in here, we'll do section.container. And you could call it anything else, and I'll hit tab. And pretty much everything is going to go in here before the navigation. And then we'll put in an H2 because we'll just have a little bit of a heading. And again, let's look at this again. We'll have a heading like this that just says contact form, and it'll be outside of the table. So I'm not looking at my other sample, but that's what we're going to do. So we're going to put it like an H2. Let's do H2 tab, and I'll just put contact form, just a heading on the page. That's our page heading. And then what's going to come next is we'll start our form, and then we'll create a table. So let's just do form, and I'll hit tab, and it's saying form action equals. And I'm just going to put in something like contact.php. Now we don't have that right now in here, and we're not going to use it, but that's what you would typically put in if you had a PHP file in here, and everything will be inside the form. And we'll make a table in there as well. So we'll make a table inside here. So we're working in this section area. We have a form action, opening, closing. Now I didn't do it the first time, but it would still work the same. But since we're not processing it, so having the form element is not a big deal. But let's make a table. Now we'll just do table, and I'll hit tab. And there's my opening and closing table tags. And now I'm going to make my 9 rows. Remember I said they were 9 rows. 1 for the label, 1 for the input, 1 for the label, 1 for the input. So there's like 8, and then 1 for the button. So we'll have 9 rows. Now we can do that all together at once. So we'll just do tr, and we're not doing a heading, a th, so we could just do tr times 9, and then inside there using that forward arrow or the greater than, and then I'll put a td in there because they should all have a td inside because that's where the content goes. And then I'm seeing all this stuff here, but just hit tab, and that's the way it should be. So there's actually 9 of these. It looks a little confusing at first because there's 9 different ones, but we're going to put our stuff in there. But it organizes it all nicely. So we're going to have 9 rows just like this. And let's start copying and pasting some stuff from here, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So the first row says first name, and here it is. It's this one here. Now you could try to copy 2 at a time instead of doing this, but one's going to have to be in a different row. So actually let's just do 1. Let's do the label 4, and I'll copy it, and I'll put it here in between the TD. That's where the content should go. Label 4 F name, and then it's going to say first name, and then the label tag ends, and then they're all inside a TD. So that's the first cell of our row, and we only have 1 cell in each row. So the next one is going to be this one, input type equals text, and that will go in the next one. And you can see it's kind of breaking over there. That's okay. And you could hide this for now if you want. And let's just look at this. It has label for fname. Now what's fname? Well, here its ID name is fname. So this is lining up here. Its input type is text, so its attribute is text. It means you're filling text in it. And there's also another attribute called name, which is first name. Now why is that fname and why is that first name? Well, this could be used for a database. If this was going to be sent through a PHP server and loaded onto a database or even sent back as an email, you might want to have it more readable. So that's why that has first name and this has fname, because this would be kind of, it could be a column in a database, could be anything like that. Now placeholder, that's optional. You don't have to have placeholder, but it says your name. You can even put first name here since you're doing first and last name. Or you could take it out. You don't have to have it in there. People know what to put in for their first name. But again, that's what we have. Attribute saying that it's an input text. ID name identifies it there, but also JavaScript would use it to identify if you do a get element by ID. So that's its identification there, and this is for server processing to identify it when the data gets processed somewhere. So that's where that's coming from. That's what these names are. Now label for is something new with HTML5. HTML5 isn't new anymore, but that helps identify input fields. We used to do it differently. We used to make different ways to do that, but that's nice that it does it for that. So now that we have our first one done, it should be easy to do the next one. If you wanted to copy just what you have, you could copy this one because it's pretty much the same, and then copy this one because it's pretty much the same. Make sure you don't take the TDs. What did I do there? Oh, I copy, and I'll go here and I'll paste. Now this one is going to be, there's fname. This is going to be lname, and it's going to be last name. And this one's going to be lname, and it's going to be last name. And again, you could have just copied it, and we'll put your last name. So now we have 2 rows done. And the next one is going to be first name, last name, country. Now this is an input. This one is going to have a label. Let's put our label in here first. This is the label for country. Now we're not going to use country, we'll make it state, but we could copy that. And we'll go back here, and in our next TD area, our next row, we'll make that state, and we'll capitalize state because that's the text you're going to see. So that's the label for state, and we don't have an ID yet, so that's going to be down here. And this is select. This is a little bit different. There's select and there's different option values. So this is a whole different form element that'll give you like a little drop down menu. So I'll copy that and I'll show you what it looks like. So we're going to put that all in the next one. And that could all go in one cell. And again, ID will use state, name will use state, and we won't use Australia. We'll use value. I guess I'll use New Jersey. We'll figure. Now, they have things without spaces in. I don't know if that's necessary. If it's going in a database, that might be necessary. Or you could just do NJ. And this could be PA. And this could be NY. Anybody from New York? Closest states around here. So I'll put New Jersey, so it looks like New Jersey with 2 words. And I'll put Pennsylvania. If you're not from Pennsylvania, it's probably hard to spell. Pennsylvania. Like the TV. See, I'm messing it up. Pennsylvania, and then New York. So we have ID select, and we have our option values. That's what it's going to choose. If we choose something, that's the data that it's going to take, but what we see is that, and it's all under this select element, which is an HTML form element, and we're using this, the ID is for the entire element. So when we find that area in a database, it'll be based on that, even though we have different options here. And there's also radio buttons and things like that that are part of HTML forms. Now again, we're working in a table, but we're putting in form elements. Just want to point that out. Don't want to confuse you with all the TDs and TRs. The TDs and TRs are basically just rows and cells, and all the things we're putting in here are the form elements. So if you look up forms, we'll see all the form elements. There's a whole section in here. I don't have to go in here right now, but if you go look at all the HTML forms, wherever that is, here, there's a whole section on forms. Forms, form elements, form attributes, input types, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go over it now. We'll just keep working what we're doing here and just focusing on the types of elements that we have. We don't have radio buttons right now, so we're just using the select options, which is a drop down, which works like this. It's going to work like that. Whichever one you choose, that's the one that's going to get selected and sent to a database or sent to an email or wherever it needs to go. And I think we're okay right now as far as our HTML. So next we're going to do this section. This is the text area section. So this is this part here, and we'll copy that. And that will, actually there's two parts here. We'll do the first part, the label. We'll copy that. And that'll go in the next one right here, the next TD. And it says label for subject, and I guess subject is fine. And then we'll do the text area. Now they do have a style in there of a height. They have it built right in, an inline style of height 200 pixels. You can style that with CSS, or it's right in there, so that's fine. You could leave it in there. And that's going to be in the next cell. There's that style height. That's an inline style. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just hard to find sometimes, but if it's the only form, that's okay. Rather than trying to go through all your CSS to find one thing for text area. And finally, the submit. That's the submit button, and we can style that like a button. And that's here. So let's see what we have. Our nav area is going to be the same. And actually, while I scroll down to my nav area, I'm just actually going to make this be, actually, I won't do anything yet because I'm still in contact. But here's what I'll do. This about us, instead of a placeholder here, I'm going to just put index.html, because then if we want to go back to our home page, we could use that. I know it's not an about us page, but at least that way we have a button to go back instead of having to type in index. And then on the other page, well, we could still do this. We could still do contact.html, even though it's its own page, so we don't really need to have it linked to its own page. But that's what we'll put on the home page, this thing here. So we could copy that and put it on the home page. So we'll have to do that then when we go back to index. But anyway, let's see what we have. Let's go here and let's refresh. And now when you refresh, you're going to see this page. Now we're going to try to link to this, but if you can't link to it yet, you could just go up here and put a slash and put contact.html. All right, that's what it should look like. Okay, so we're going to style that so it looks like what it looked like the previous time. So that was what's styling in there. So we're going to have to style this, the header part, this is the H2, and then the table, and then the areas in the table, and all that kind of stuff. And this should go back to the home page because we did that at least. And then on the home page, let's just go and do that. Go back to index and go down to the bottom and make this be contact.html. And then I'll go here and I'll refresh this, and this should get us to the page. And that's what we're going to start styling next. So now that we have it, we're just going to style it and make it look good. So we'll get started with that in part 3. But this is our form right now. I mean, it works the way it is, but it doesn't look nice. There's our drop down, our text area, all this. So now we're just going to style it and make it look nice. So it's all ready to roll here, and we'll be building onto our CSS with our previous CSS. So we'll be doing that in part 3.